Most of the fatalities were in the southeastern province of KwaZulu-Natal. That's where most of the unrest has taken place, as well as in Gauteng province. Riots and looting began a week ago in response to the jailing of former President Jacob Zuma, but evolved into an expression of anger over poverty and inequality. President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the nation earlier this evening and admitted his government failed to spot this risk.
Intended to cripple the economy of our country, to cause social instability, and severely weaken or even dislodge the democratic state. Using the pretext of a political grievance, those behind these acts have sought to provoke a popular insurrection amongst our people. As this government, we must acknowledge that we were poorly prepared for an orchestrated campaign of public violence, destruction, and sabotage of this nature.
And for more on this story, we're joined by Daryl Glazer from Johannesburg. He is an associate professor of politics at Wits University. Thank you so much for joining us here on France 24. Now, much of the violence, recent violence, has taken place in and around Johannesburg. Things do appear to be calmer there today, but how does it feel there right now?
Well, a couple of days ago, we were very alarmed in Johannesburg because the unrest that originated in the province of KwaZulu-Natal spread to Gauteng province, where we are now located. Our local shopping centres closed in anticipation of possible riots. But what happened up here in Johannesburg was nothing compared to what happened in Durban and the surrounding province of KwaZulu-Natal. That was the epicenter of this unrest. There are parts of Durban and parts of KwaZulu-Natal even now where people are struggling to get basic supplies and where there's food insecurity. So, yes, the situation is still very tense in the country. The government has talked about the situation having stabilized, but it has not stabilized entirely. There are still incidents. None of us ever thought anything on this scale could happen, or very few people anticipated it, except a few in hindsight. In hindsight, we can look at all the unemployment and poverty in the country exacerbated by the COVID epidemic. We can look at the grievances around the arrest and imprisonment of Zuma amongst his supporters who are concentrated in KwaZulu-Natal. But it's only in retrospect that we can, as it were, begin to piece together what happened. In advance, no one anticipated that something on this scale could conceivably happen in South Africa. We've never seen something like it before. It's quite unprecedented.
I'd like to get your response to the president's words tonight. Do you think that he said anything that the South African people, especially those who are dealing with poverty and inequality on a grand scale, anything they wanted to hear that would help?
Well, on the one hand, I think that President Ramaphosa is a very assured and reassuring figure. I think he comes across quite well on television. Many members of the public will take some comfort from both the calmness of his tone and the firmness of his commitment to, for example, hold those responsible for this unrest to account. But there is a grumbling and dissatisfaction in the country that we've heard Cyril Ramaphosa talk like this before. Some of his speeches are better than others. He's quite good at this sort of talk. But, there have been major policy failures on his watch, for example, with the vaccination rollout and the unemployment and poverty that were already endemic in South Africa have grown so much worse as a result of the COVID crisis. Some people consider the government's social and economic response to the crisis to be inadequate in terms of providing for people's basic needs. So there's a lot of underlying dissatisfaction, but I still think there was overwhelming outrage amongst most parts of the public at what these looters did and what the criminal syndicates and the political plotters behind this riot were trying to do. There's overwhelming outrage at that. So I think there will be a desire on the part of many to rally around the government, a desire to see it take a firmer stand in defense of South African constitutional democracy.
Daryl Grelazer from Wits University in Johannesburg, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on France 24. Next, the latest on the conflict in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. The battle there widening, with 3 more regions sending soldiers to reinforce the national army in its fight against rebels. A 4th region, Amhara, has been locked in conflict with Tigrayan rebels since the war erupted in November. Both sides claim the fields of western and southern Tigray as their own. Hundreds of thousands of Tigrayans have since fled Amhara, creating a humanitarian crisis. France 24 spoke to Amharas who are determined to stay.
These men from the Amhara region are ready to risk their lives to defend the territories retaken in Tigray.